Yo, what is up guys, it's Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and in this one, of course, we're going to be taking a look at Battlefield 6's first season, Season 1, all of my first impressions. There's a lot of content to dig into here, so I don't think it's fair to say that DICE haven't delivered on that front, but is it all good content? As always, if you guys haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything surrounding Battlefield 6. I do my best to keep you guys up to date with all of the news, as well as tutorials and guides and whatnot here on the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. So after Battlefield 2042's downright dismal, really, amount of content, this time around for Battlefield 6, they've really given us a lot for Season 1 here. The first part, which is releasing just yesterday on the 28th of October, gave us a new map for the base game. It also gave us a new game mode. But then, surprisingly, they shadow dropped this Battle Royale mode, which they're calling RedSeak. It's also got another mode inside of it called Gauntlet as well. So you're kind of spoilt for choice right now. Now, first off, I want to talk about the new map in the base Battlefield mode, because I know that's what a lot of you guys will be interested in. A lot of people here on my channel aren't necessarily Battle Royale players, and that may not be a mode that excites them. And the new map is called Blackwell Fields. Now, unfortunately, I have to say that I am not too impressed by this map overall. I do think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's got a lot of glowing fire, this sort of yellowy, orangey tint to the whole map, because obviously you've got these oil wells all over the place, so there are, burning oil fields, I assume, in the background, and that's what's sort of creating the atmosphere on the map. But outside of that, the way the map actually plays, I don't think is too good. It is a very open map. It's slightly hilly, but as you're traversing from point to point, you kind of find that you're surrounded on all sides by snipers. It's also very, very good for camping with tanks on this map. You'll see in some of the clips in the background here, I'm gunning in a tank, and I'm just able to hit so many targets in so many directions from such great distances that I feel like playing as infantry on this map is very, very difficult, especially if you're somebody who likes to camp the flanks, you like to be, CQC, close up and personal and in on that action. It really lends itself to much longer range gameplay, such as sniping. So again, maybe if you are so inclined, you're a bit of a sniper or a recon player, maybe you're going to have a ball on this map. Now, I also spent some time playing in the air vehicles, and again, it's just not that great of an experience. I think the airspace that we're given for this map is far too narrow, far too small. As soon as you get locked on and you try to fly away from the battlefield to, get to a safe distance, you're out of bounds. And what this means is that if you get hit by a missile, and in Battlefield 6 you get disabled, you go into a spin, you can't really maneuver the jet. By the time you've finished this animation and come back around again, you've already died from going out of bounds because of the limited 15-second timer. So you are going to spend basically most of your airtime in out-of-bounds areas, and then just trying to sneak back into the edge of the map to get inbounds before that timer runs out, only to get locked on again. The airspace is in fact so small that you can get locked on in your base on the runway as you're taking off from the enemy IFV that is all the way across the other side of the map. I think this could be fixed very easily. All they need to do is increase the airspace on all sides, maybe the height of the map as well, so you're not getting up into the flight ceiling. And of course, one of the major things that's really breaking the air gameplay at the moment is the MR missile on the IFV. I'm sure most of you are aware at this point that if a target is laser painted and you shoot an MR missile from the IFV at it, it will go through your flares. It cannot be stopped by countermeasures. This is clearly a bug, something that is being looked into by DICE, but there hasn't been a fix for it just yet. So to sum it up, I wouldn't say it's like the worst Battlefield map I've ever seen, but I personally couldn't really jive with it, and if I'm going to search for a game of Conquest, then it's not going to be one that I'll put on my list of maps. But like I said earlier, if you're a sniper, you may enjoy the map. There certainly were people, in my stream who said that they really had a great time. Now, moving on from that, the next thing that's kind of interesting here is that the little bird, the AH-6M, has actually been added to Battlefield 6. I don't think it's supposed to be coming in Season 1, so I don't know why they've added it to the files, but you can actually spawn this vehicle in Portal. And if you guys are interested in trying this out for yourselves, I will leave you the Portal code down below, but this is basically just like a mode where you can mess around spawning pretty much anything from the Portal system, and as you can see, we can get the little bird. I haven't figured out how to actually spawn any AI yet, so maybe there are some Portal modes going around and you can see what sort of damage it's capable of, but it feels pretty decent to fly. It's not quite as agile as Battlefield 2042's Nightbird, which I think is a good thing because that was literally just like a helicopter on crack. But it does seem very powerful. We've got the same system as from 2042 with the miniguns here, where you have like the left gun and the right gun. So you maybe at closer distances are going to have to aim at targets and account for that sort of thing. Once you hit that sweet spot, that mid-range, you're probably going to be hitting the target with both guns. And damage against vehicles is one of the things I tested here against light armored vehicles like jets and whatnot. They pretty much shred through jets, so, you know, stuff like little jeeps and that on the ground, they're going to be doing a lot of damage to those, but they don't really do any damage to tanks. Now, you also get rocket pods. They fire extremely fast, and each time you click, it fires 2 rockets at a time, so you can unleash all of these very, very quickly. But they don't seem to do much damage against tanks at all, so I think they're also catered to anti-infantry. Are we going to get additional loadout options for this helicopter, like we do for the missiles for the attack helicopter? I don't know, because we also don't get loadout options for the jets in BF6, so maybe this is just the standard loadout and that's all you're going to get. Now, when is the Little Bird actually going to be officially added to the game so that we can play and use it with our allies and against our enemies? I don't know, that remains to be seen, but I would guess it's probably going to be coming in Season 2. So, again, why they've added it so early in when it seems to be really completely finished and fully functional, you tell me. I have no clue. Maybe they're going to shadow drop it at some point in the season, or maybe it's coming in Season 2. Now, the last piece of real content for the main game here, outside of RedSeak, is a new mode called Strike Point. And this is kind of like Battlefield's take on Counter-Strike. It's a one-life mode, but instead of planting bombs, you just have to cap a single flag. It's 4 versus 4. I think this is going to be a game mode that is for some people. Personally, I don't think I'll spend too much time in here. Again, I just prefer the standard default Battlefield experience, which to me has always been and will always be conquest, large conquest on big maps. That's what I really enjoy from the game. But again, they're trying to cater to as wide an audience as possible. So maybe if you're somebody who does like high stakes gameplay, like having a one life mode like this, that's going to be more your jam. But personally, I found the Gauntlet mode to be more interesting, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the video. Now, before we jump into talking about RedSeak, there have been some changes to the weekly challenges, and this has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So I've noticed, both from my channel and just general sentiments around Battlefield, a lot of players aren't really interested in a Battle Royale mode. However, the Battle Royale mode in this game, I do think is very, very good, but I also don't think players should be sort of forced to play the Battle Royale unless they want to. But what they've done is they've created some of the weekly challenges in this game around the Battle Royale. So here, for example, we have complete missions in Battle Royale, complete matches in Gauntlet, which is kind of a spin-off of the Battle Royale, and deploy a squad mate in Battle Royale. Now, I don't have the biggest issue in the world with this, because one of the new features they've implemented is that you can now re-roll your assignments. So this goes for the daily assignments and the weekly assignments. I think you can do all 3 of the daily assignments every day, and then you can re-roll up to 5 of the weekly assignments. So if you decide that you don't want to play the Battle Royale at all, you can just re-roll all of those assignments and sort of hope that you get another one, I guess, that isn't Battle Royale, but there's always a chance it's going to re-roll into another Battle Royale weekly mission. So people on Reddit are absolutely going bananas about Season 1. Like, every single aspect of Season 1, they're painting it as all doom and gloom. I don't think that's the case, but I still sort of understand people who say, hey Dice, I just don't want to play a Battle Royale. No matter who made the Battle Royale, I'm not interested in it, and I'm feeling sort of forced to play these weekly challenges. But to be fair, I can understand why DICE want to have weekly challenges that cater to everybody, right? People who are in the game just for the free-to-play BR, people who are playing the game for the base game, you know, you've got to offer challenges to all of those different people. You can't just exclude one set of them to please the other, and I think the best go-between here is exactly what they've done. They've basically put this reroll system in there, so if you're unhappy with some of them, you can change them. Now, speaking of the Battle Royale, how is it in this game? Is it worth playing? If you're somebody like me who isn't generally a fan of Battle Royale modes, I would still give this one a look, because it really does have that Battlefield identity for it. But I still think one of the key things holds true for any Battle Royale, and that is, for me, is that it's only really fun with your friends. Now, I've played this Battle Royale in labs for several hours with a group, a setup squad, and we had a ton of fun there. And there are a lot of different mechanics in the BR that really leans into communication and playing with your squad. So for example, there's a second chance mechanic where if you die and your squad mates are surviving towards the start of the game, you can then spawn in, parachute on top of them, and you get a second chance. So let's say you spawn into a round, you've only got a pistol, somebody finds an assault rifle and the best armor in the game straight away, and they gun you down. Well, it's okay, you get a second chance, you can go to a different part of the map, try to loot some weapons, and have a bit of a comeback moment. Now, going past that, as you get into the later parts of the round, the only way to bring back fallen squad mates, apart from reviving them, of course, before they clap out entirely, is by going to these redeploy stations. And they kind of act like a flag that you have to cap. And once you capped it, your squad mates can then spawn in on you. But again, this is really going to lean into you playing with friends. When I was doing that in labs, of course we were all playing together. When one of us got down, we collectively decided, okay, let's head for that redeploy station over there, and we're going to get this guy back up again. The same thing doesn't really happen when I played with randoms. If I was down, I was trying to ping on the map, I was trying to communicate with them over VoIP and tell them, hey guys, can you get to this station and revive me? And they just really had no interest in doing that, meaning I simply had to leave the game and re-queue again. Now, the way that weapons works in this mode is that you will find random weapons in crates, and you'll also find these special upgrade kits, but the upgrade kits only work for specific weapons. So you may find an assault upgrade kit, and if you go into your inventory and use it on your assault rifle, you will get a choice of one option or the other. So it may be putting a scope on your weapon, or it may be an extended magazine, and every time you upgrade it with one of these kits, it goes up in rarity. So it's just like most BRs, you know, it goes from white to green to blue to purple, and then I think you get like orange or something like that, or red at the end. And again, if you're playing with squad mates, this is a lot easier because let's say you're running with a PDW and a sniper rifle, but your mate has an assault rifle where you can give him your assault kit. But when you're playing with randoms, that kind of gameplay doesn't really happen. Now, there are missions to partake in this battle royale, and as the squad leader, it's your job to open up the map and accept these missions. You will then be prompted to run to a certain point on the map, and honestly, the missions are like okay, but they're a little bit overwhelming, even compared to some other extraction shooters like Delta Force, and it's not often I would say that Delta Force does anything better than Battlefield 6, but in this regard, I think they do. The missions in BF6's BR are just kind of pretty generic, like you hold onto a beacon, wait for it to reach 100%, and then boom, you've done the mission, a crate drops down, you get some rewards, and that's about it. I feel like the missions in Delta Force, for a good example here, were a lot more dynamic. You would have some really cool ones where you had to take over a missile battery, capture that, and when you did, it would launch these missiles and maybe blow up a separate part on the map, opening up access to new areas. However, one of the cooler parts of RedSeak is that, of course, you get the battlefield vehicles in them. So the way this works is that you have to find a key to open one of these containers, and then you've got to find said container with usually a tank or an IFV inside. And they are incredibly powerful, as you can imagine, and the way enemy players counter these vehicles is that you can find basically launcher drops around the maps. And the way these anti-armor kits work is that they can have any of the launchers from BF6, right? So you can have a Javelin in there, there can be RPGs, there can be Stingers, and it's actually not too hard to find these, and so this really balances out the tank and the IFV gameplay. Whilst yes, they are incredibly powerful, and you can go and just down squad after squad if they don't have any. So, you know, if you don't have any launchers, you probably want to run away from the tank if you hear one coming. At the same time, it's quite easy to hide from them. So I do feel like this is pretty well balanced. That was one of my main worries about a BR in Battlefield, like how are you going to balance the vehicles? You will notice that there is no attack helicopter in here. There is only the Black Hawk transport helicopter, and I do think that's a wise decision because an attack heli probably would have ruined this entirely. So I would say if you've not experienced this yet, or you're, you know, slightly on the fence, or even if you're very skeptical about a Battle Royale mode, go and give it a try. But for me, I think it's something I will enjoy playing with friends, not so much with randoms. Now, this could be something that gets better with time once people realize how the game mode works and how you're supposed to get your squad mates back alive, and maybe they start communicating a little bit more. You know, things may improve then, but at the moment, I feel like I had an absolute blast playing this in labs with my friends where we were all working together, and that team play that Battlefield is known for was really able to shine through, versus yesterday when I played it by myself with 3 random players. I didn't really have as good of a time there. It didn't feel like we had any cohesive, interesting gameplay going on. Everyone was just sort of doing things in that typical Battlefield way where you're just in it for yourself, doing your own thing. And to be fair, I think that's exactly what I expected. I do think most people who enjoy and play Battle Royales on the regular, they do it with a set group of players who they know, who they're used to communicating with, and they play these sorts of games with all the time. Now, the other mode we got out of RedSeak is, of course, called Gauntlet. And much as I mentioned earlier, the strike point game mode with the one life was sort of Battlefield's take on Counter-Strike, I would say Gauntlet is Battlefield's take on the finals. So you start off with, I believe, 8 squads of 4, and you will play against one other squad for an objective. Now, that objective may be to find a bomb and plant it. This is a lot faster than Rush. Maybe the planting time here and the detonation time is like 15-20 seconds compared to Rush. I want to say it's at least a minute. So you really have to be quick there. And you can get points in this mode for reviving players, you can get points for killing enemy players, and for completing these objectives. So you don't have to go for the objective, but it's definitely a good idea. And similar to the finals in this tournament style mode, in the first round the top 6 squads out of 8 will go through, and then it's the top 4 squads, and then the top 2 squads, and then of course in the last round you see those top 2 squads go against each other to try and come out as the overall victor. So I actually think both this and the Battle Royale are both quite welcome modes, because as somebody who finds the pacing in Battlefield 6 maybe like a little bit too intense, a little bit too sweaty, you know, my nerves are shot after about 2 hours of play from just sheer focus and concentration. Some of these modes do give you that much needed breathing time that I think a lot of us have been craving. You know, you play a round, maybe you die in that round, well now you can just sort of sit back and watch what your teammates are doing, wait for the next round to come up. However, I do think this mode sort of makes the strike point mode a little bit obsolete. Like, I would far rather play Gauntlet than Strike Point, especially since it's objective based, it's a one life mode, it's a 4 squad mode against another squad of 4 people, but it's just much more interesting. It's got a lot more to it than Strike Point does, so it's a little bit of a weird decision to me to implement both of these things on exactly the same day. So to sum up, has Battlefield 6's first season been a success so far? I would honestly say it depends on what sort of player you are. For me personally, I would say that it has, because I enjoy the Battle Royale, I enjoy Gauntlet mode, I think these are welcome additions to the game. I would say the weakest part is actually the new base map, Blackwell Fields. Now that means, of course, if you're somebody who has zero interest in RedSeak, you know, in the BR, in Gauntlet mode, and all you're interested in is what's being brought to the base game, which is the new map and Strike Point, well, you may feel as though you've kind of been done dirty and they haven't really brought anything interesting here. Maybe you're somebody who wants big, larger, wider open maps with better pacing. I don't think, again, you're going to find that in Blackwell Fields. But that also doesn't really surprise me, right? Because this map has been planned long ago. I'm sure DICE have been listening to the outcry from the community for bigger maps in the game, and if they haven't already, they're definitely going to be planning something like that in the future. But I think it's fair to say they've already got the maps for at least the first couple of seasons of the game planned out and even finished at this point, so we're probably not going to see that until like maybe season 3 or 4. As always, guys, I would be really interested to know and hear what you all think about this. How have you been finding the first season? Are you having a blast? Are you kind of underwhelmed? Like, let me know what you think down below in the comments. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video or found it informative, leaving a like is always appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with everything Battlefield 6, and I will see you guys in the next video.